very special Yankees Files podcast. We are back. I'm Will Harris. You're Steve Carsey. And for the last time, you're Alec Whipple. The rest of you, of course, are fans of the only team to make waves in baseball recently by amending its facial hair policy. That team is, of course, the New York Yankees. Steve, Whipple, it's a pleasure to have you both together here for the last time in for who knows how long. Whipple, this is, of course, your last episode as a full-time member of the Yankees Files team. This is something that's been discussed for a few months now. Is there anything you'd like to say to the followers, listeners, and devoted Whipple fans out there as you bid the podcast life farewell?
Well, first, I think it'd be funny if another team decided to amend its facial hair policy the other direction. Like the Reds suddenly are like, you can't grow beards.
And it would be appropriate for it to be the Reds because that's where Steinbrenner got the policy in the first place.
Real?
I didn't know that.
I didn't even know that. Well,
Yeah,
I learned something 136 episodes.
And you know what? I bet whoever owned the Reds at that time was like a really good person who didn't like Hitler at all.
I know that not to be true.
Oops. Anyway.
But yeah, no, I mean, quick transition. It's been a few months coming. I know I said, I'm stepping out to study for the bar, become a lawyer, just need to focus my energies on some other things. But I mean, I don't know if I want to save like the sentimental stuff for the end, but it's been a ride. Maybe I'll save some of it for parting shots, but it's been awesome. I mean, just being on the pod for 4 years, seeing someone like Steve jump in, which is kind of the product of like all the work we've been doing, and getting to do fun things like the draft we're going to do. It's definitely been entertaining. So I'll save some of the actual sentimental stuff for a wrap up at the end. But yeah, it's hard to believe we're here. But I think the fact that, this is kind of a big deal is a product of how cool and awesome and kick-ass this pod has been for 4 years. So I'm excited to get one more draft in, and I will not be going anywhere permanently. Like I will be around on the, put up the Whipple signal. If something happens, I can come back. This is not the last time I'll ever be on, but just, in case for all the really hardcore fans out there, this isn't like permanent goodbye. Just
this is like
leaving you a lifeline.
This is like the opposite of when Steve left Blue's Clues. It's actually like when Steve left Blue's Clues because a main character is leaving, but it's the opposite because we're gaining Steve. So those things are a little bit hard to square. Shout out to Blue's Clues.
That was a reach. I'm about it, but that was out of left field.
Hey, man. I don't know. Do you have a better reference point for someone leaving something? It's not like one of the most popular baseball podcasts has had a rotating cast of hosts and only one of them has been around for the majority of the episodes. I don't know what you want me to do with this.
Okay, Ben Lindbergh.
You have said that I would be the Ben Lindbergh of this podcast, which is technically becoming more true.
I feel like I kind of am the Sam Miller because I'm like, I want to go do something other than baseball, and then I probably will end up doing something baseball related anyway. So
that's fair.
Jeff Sullivan, welcome.
There you go. So Steve, you're about to take on, a much more prominent role in the Yankees Files orbit here. How do you feel about this?
I'm feeling good. I mean, last episode was kind of the no Whipple training wheels episode, right? It was just me out there. I think we had a pretty good time just airing some grievances in the video we had cooked up. But I mean, it'll be weird for me too because I listen to the podcast, so not having Whipple there will even be weird for me because now I just have to listen to myself for 50% of the time, and that's going to be awful because who wants to listen to me? But,
I do. I'd rather listen to you. I said earlier, I'm like, I don't listen to these episodes. I hate hearing myself talk. So Yankees Files might have just gained a really hardcore listener because I'm so excited to listen.
Whipple's going to become a hater. He's going to start tweeting at us about like how much our takes suck.
Well, I can control
that would
the
be
account too, so I could just, get behind the scenes and really cause some chaos. One other thing I'll say though is I know you guys are No More Fielders fans in the Replacing series. I feel like, I'm watching those series and seeing like the replacing the legends doesn't always go well. I think we did a pretty good job. Like we anointed the chosen one. We did the transition period, and I'm going out, and I feel like we're in a great place. So I just want to give us props for like having a great transition strategy. And
Yeah, thank God I said yes, right? God,
That's true.
Could you imagine if I had said no? Oh, God.
And then we would have had to go get
screwed.
like Didi Gregorius or something.
Yeah, that. Who wants a celebrity on here? That's just lame.
Or Ryan
Who wants some
Jeffers.
just regular white dudes talking about baseball? That's what we want.
That's
what our listeners want.
We are the people who have podcasts. Regular white dudes. I'm actually just going to change the name of the podcast. We're going to start talking about some really inane stuff. Anyway, the hallmark of the Alec Whipple driven episode is a draft. Whipple thrives in off-season content. He loves remembering some guys, remembering some moments, and that's what we're set up to do today. So the rules of the game are as follows. Everyone must draft 5 moments or abstract phenomena or highlights from the last 25 years. You may not repeat seasons. So once anyone picks a moment or abstract phenomenon from a season, it is off the board. And the winner is determined entirely by who we feel like won at the end, and the winner gets nothing. Whipple, I think it is only right for you to have the first pick.
Rigged.
I'm in charge. Whipple, it's only right for you to have the first pick in this draft. What year are you going with? What moment are you going with? What is the number one thing you would like to pick for this draft that you designed?
So there's definitely a few ways to go about it. I mean, clearly there's some years that are more in demand than others, but I want to go for the things that really speak to me. And there's definitely some things that speak to me that I feel like I can stash a little bit because I don't think people are going to pick those years. Okay. But I'm going to start off with one that maybe people aren't going to pick this year, but I just care too much about this moment in this year. And I think given the jersey that I'm wearing right now, I would like to just, bring it all full circle with a Garrett Cole moment to start off. Okay. I'm going 2021, Garrett Cole complete game shutout, Houston Astros.
That's a good one.
Probably in the Yankees Files era, I would say the best pitching performance we've watched. I know we watched Domingo Germán's perfect game. I still feel like this was better. I want to believe this was better. I think it probably was, given like the quality of opponent and the stakes of the game and just the way it unfolded score wise. But going into Houston, Garrett Cole kind of peak of his performance early 2021, had some struggles when sticky stuff, spider tack was banned, and was he using, was he not using, who's to say, but it definitely didn't look great. And we all needed a reminder. I need a reminder that Garrett Cole was Garrett Cole. And, never doubt Garrett Cole. That's, I think, the lesson. But going into Houston in, a pretty, the Yankees and Astros had their playoff history at that moment, and it was really considered to be a showdown of top teams. The Yankees really weren't playing it well at that point. So they're starting to come back, but having that weekend, Friday night, I forget what score they won. I think it was like 4-0. Saturday, going against the Astros, giving up basically nothing, next to nothing, complete game, 120, 8 pitches?
Something I think it was like that.
128 pitches. We'll say it's 128. 9 innings of one hit ball. And then just the way, I think if I had to pick the one moment, it was the way that game ended and the call that Joe Davis, Garrett Cole goes the distance, the way he stared down the mound, the way he said, I blacked out, said epic. The F word and blacked out. And I just think like that just kind of symbolizes 129 pitches. That just really symbolizes like what Garrett Cole has meant to the Yankees the last few years. And just like one of my favorite players just doing an awesome thing on the road against the freaking Astros in a season where it really did come down to every single game. I just, for something about that, like will never be topped for Cole for me. And I know he won the Cy, but that individual game is the peak.
Whipple, I'm glad you picked a Garrett Cole moment. Otherwise, no one would know how big of a Garrett Cole fan you are. So it's really, there you go. Yep. Not surprising. Steve, would you like to go next?
Sure. My moments are going to be a collection of, the first one will be a legit moment. It's going to be a good one we're going to remember. One will be like, oh yes, of course he picked this. Then the other ones I'm going to get a little weird with, and we're going to have some fun. But okay. First one is going to be 2019. It's going to be July 23rd, 2019. If you can guess what game that would be.
I can.
One of the best games I've ever watched, Yankees versus Twins. This is the Aaron Hicks catch game, but also the Aaron Hicks game-tying home run game, the Didi Gregorius 7 RBI game. Went, I think, 13 innings that game went. Aroldis Chapman had bases loaded, nobody out, somehow only gave up 1 run to keep the game tied. One of the best baseball games I have ever watched. I still will rewatch the highlights of that game every now and then because it is just, it's like pure baseball, that game. It is one of the single most entertaining games, down to the very last pitch, the very last play. Just, you know, and that season was all about just overcoming odds too. Everybody kept getting hurt that whole season. It was just like Mike Tauchman coming up and Gio Urshela. It was just all of these players that we didn't expect, and they still won over 100 games that year. And that individual game just epitomized, like, just they never stopped, and somehow they ended up winning that game. One of my favorite baseball games I've ever watched. Easy pick.
Yeah, that's a very good pick. No notes. I think my only gripe is that you picked a game, or you picked a year that I had a good moment for, so I'm a little offended.
That's gonna happen.
So with my first pick, I'm going with the moment that I've probably tweeted more than any other, which is from 2018, Yankees Astros on May 29th, which was a Tuesday evening in the Bronx. It's in extra innings because Brett Gardner had just tied the game to send it to extra innings. It's 5-5, and Aroldis Chapman throws a ball over Gary Sanchez and the umpire, bounces off the backstop, and Gary throws out Tony Kemp at third for the third out of the inning. Yankees go on to win on a Gleyber Torres walk-off base hit in the bottom of the 10th. This was about, coming up on 2 years into Gary Sanchez being, my favorite baseball player on the planet. And it felt good to vanquish the Astros. I was at this game with friends of mine, and it was just such a crazy, a once in a lifetime moment to witness, just from the perspective of how rare a play like that is. And then on top of that, it being Gary at the center of it was just so cool. And it's probably one of the coolest things I've ever seen live. So it was an easy pick for me.
That's a good one.
Now, are we going snake or are we going NFL draft style and it just goes back to Whipple?
NFL draft style, because that
you would say that, wouldn't you? Okay, sure. Go ahead.
So this one, I've definitely talked about this. I don't think this year is in any danger, but I really want this specific moment, so I got to go all in for it. I'm going 2015, the Troy Tulowitzki, Andrew Miller at bat to end.
Oh yeah.
To end the what date was it? Well, August 15th game in Toronto. I still think this is one of the greatest at bats I've ever seen. Foolish Baseball made a video about it, baseball bits about it, and that just shows you it's a good moment. Just action-packed game. I think Carlos Beltran had a pinch hit 3-run home run. They came back from being down to be up. It was a pennant race. The Yankees were really blowing the division badly, and they would blow the division. So this was kind of the one moment that wasn't a total collapse. But Andrew Miller coming in, the runners on second and third, 2 out in the 9th on the road, peak Troy Tulowitzki, just acquired. You're going up against one of the greatest closers at that point, and it was just a battle of an at bat. I mean, I remember it was just foul off. I mean, I think, it was probably 4 or 5 straight at one point. And I just remember every single pitch. I just can't remember an at bat where every single pitch, it was just this crescendo and then the reset. And for so many pitches at that intensity level, it was just an incredible thing. And then when Miller struck out Tulowitzki, for that moment as a 2015 Yankees fan, it was, peak baseball. You've just vanquish the Blue Jays in one of the great games of the year. And I just really like that at bat specifically for what it as a baseball fan. I think there's nothing better than seeing your team win an at bat like that, especially on the pitching side. And Andrew Miller was a great pitcher. Just watching him work was awesome. But at the peak of a pennant race in that kind of game, I think that's one of the greatest at bats of the last 25 years of Yankees baseball.
That's a good
And
pick.
I know no one was going to take that, but
I was not going to take that. By 2015, abstract phenomenon was the A-Rod resurgent season.
Was pretty good.
Steve, your second pick.
I almost feel bad taking some of these years because there are so many better moments that could be taken from some of them.
Yeah.
But the one that, I was thinking 2017, what was I going to take? There's a lot of good moments from 2017, but a lot of them are replayed a lot. They're used a lot, and those are cool. The one that immediately came to my mind, the thing I always think about from Aaron Judge as a rookie in 2017, is the home run he hit at Safeco Field. If you know which one I'm talking about. It is, I can still hear Ryan Ruocco calling it, and it's just one of the most absurd home runs that nearly left the stadium. And it was one of those moments where it was like, that was the first year we had Aaron Judge. We hadn't seen a ton of him to that point, and him hitting a home run with like that just put him in a totally different category of person. And it just elevated everything I thought about him at that time. And it was like, holy, we're watching somebody totally different hit baseballs right now. And I still replay that one all the time. So a lot of good moments in 2017, Gary, in the playoffs. So many playoff moments you could take. But I'm going with that one. Safeco Field.
Yeah, that's an incredible one. That was really cool. I remember watching that and just being in awe. That happened a lot with Aaron Judge that year and since.
Yeah.
With my second pick, I'm going to throw it back to 2007. Not exactly the most storied year in Yankees history, but home to one of the great moments, not an on-the-field moment. In fact, this moment happened in a luxury box in the old Yankee Stadium when on, I think it was May 6th, Roger Clemens announced that he would be returning to the New York Yankees coming out of retirement. Roger Clemens and Susan Waldman has, of course, the most iconic call of it. Go look it up if you've never seen it.
I've seen it. That's great.
You know, of all the dramatic things I've seen, it's iconic. I love it. I love the Waldman call. I love the place it occupies in
and he wasn't even
Yankees history, and he wasn't even good. But it was just so electric that we're getting, you know, one of the greatest living pitchers back
mid-season.
Mid-season.
What's the equivalent of me doing that? Like I'm showing up like in that door behind you, just like standing there.
Exactly.
Mid-episode, you just pop in. Yeah.
But you don't then join that episode. You say like, hey, I'm going to get ready, and a few episodes from now, I'm going to be back on the podcast.
Pay me $1 million per episode, and then I'll end the season early.
You got to FaceTime Will in the middle of it, and then we'll hold you up, and you'll be like, I'm coming back.
I'd like to submit a companion the Jack Curry tweet in 2012. Not
the Andy Pettit tweet.
In that vein, I think those are like the two, you know, same feeling. Like we remember where we were when that happened. It was like,
all right. Well, you've now used your 2012 pick, so thanks a lot.
I mean, 2012 is clearly, but I don't know if I'm going to use it, but we all know what it is.
I know what it is.
Yeah. I know what it is too. Yeah, that's the only one I wrote down. So,
I'm joking, but Whipple, your third pick.
Okay, so
just take it. Just take the 2012 moment.
Don't do it.
I want to do something that's
it's such a good one.
See, I was going to do 2019, the DJ Homer. That's why I'm a little annoyed about 2019. That, I think that might be the single, like, I don't know, oh shit moment of like the last 10 years.
But it's so depressing in retrospect. So
the Soto Homer might have it beat.
The Soto Homer is good. I just don't want to take it because I'm upset.
There's something different. I wrote the Soto. There's something different about that DJ Homer. It was. I think Soto was like this triumphant, you know, exclamation point. DJ was like, "You think you're dead, and then you're back, and then you're dead."
Yeah,
that's fair.
Anyway, I'm gonna go 2011. Derek Jeter 3,000 hit.
Oh, I had such a fun one for this. I had such a fun one.
I just had to do a Derek Jeter one. I thought doing the other Derek Jeter one, I was thinking, well, there was a few, but this one, I just feel like this was like the moment when I realized like Derek Jeter was good, but you realize like he is a special, magical player. When like,
would you say he is where fantasy becomes reality?
See, that's why I didn't want to take that one, because the call for 2011 was so much better.
It was.
Yeah.
I remember watching that, and like everybody, I mean, that was like the age where you just like could tune in with everyone every single day. No responsibilities. you're just watching every minute of the game, even if it's during the day, and just, all the attention on him, all the media hoopla, and he does that, like hitting a home run off of one of the best pitchers in baseball, going 5 for 5 that day, just completely meeting the moment as he'd done so many times. But I think like when it was that, I mean, you just realize like this is inner circle baseball history you're witnessing right here. It was so, I just remember watching that. I mean, there's definitely some poorly recorded video on some phone I had 15 years ago of me, filming myself jumping up and down. And I feel like that, like, beyond just like, a cool outcome to an end of a game, which there are plenty. I think that like personal like connection and the narratives around baseball. I mean, Derek Jeter might not have been the best player, but he definitely allowed us to write those narratives more than like any other player. And that's pretty cool. And I think DJ3K is like the perfect encapsulation of allowing, yourself to live in this like this fantasy of baseball.
It's also just a great example of the Yankees absolutely destroying David Price, which I want to point out that
continued across franchises
that no one did better than Gary Sanchez.
2018 ALDS Game 2 could have been your pick.
It could have. It wasn't.
As good as that moment was, do we really think it was better than Jesus Montero hitting 2 home runs?
I don't actually. I have a Jesus Montero signed bat, basically because of that. Yeah, wow. Got it for Christmas, and then they traded him. I was
so hyped about him after that moment. I mean, that was, man. And he sucked anyway, but that was, what could have been.
Shout out my dog, Jesus Montero. All right, Steve, it's your choice.
All right, this is definitely I don't think anybody's going to take this year. It's not a good year, but it's one of my favorite personal moments because he's my favorite player, even though it's an arbitrary statistic. But I'm going 2008, Mike Mussina winning his 20th game on his last start of his career. 20 wins doesn't mean anything, but back then it did still kind of mean something. And his whole career was defined by, almost getting a no-hitter, almost winning a Cy Young, almost winning 20 games. So it was cool for him to go out with a 20-win season, and he'd great season. It was 6 shutout innings to end the year too. But I mean, people thought he should have kept pitching after that. He had one of the better seasons of his career in a way, that very last season. So that's one I always think about still. I can still remember watching that game because I still cared about how people thought about wins, even if I didn't care about them. So I really wanted him to get the win that game because I knew it was going to be significant to how the discourse of Mike Mussina would be. I thought it would give him a better chance at the Hall of Fame. Even back then, I was thinking about that. So I was stoked for him, and I still remember that one. In an otherwise kind of lame year, the Yankees didn't even go to the playoffs in 2008. Last year at the old stadium. So one of the few bright spots of that year.
Yeah, that was really cool. I liked that. It was fun. It was when people still thought wins mattered. And to your point about the way it kind of punctuated his career and enhanced his Hall of Fame case in the eyes of that block of voters.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's a very good pick. It's such a shame that he never won a World Series with the Yankees, but that's
sandwiched. 01 he came in, and 08 he left. Yeah,
Giambi style.
Did you ever read the book by John Feinstein that he did with Mike Mussina and Tom Glavine?
I actually haven't. I should.
You gotta read it. It's about their 2007s, but it's like a split perspective kind of thing. And like, obviously Mussina didn't do well, but like such a great look inside his head. And I agree. Just like he deserved that so much after 2007.
Yeah. After everything he had been through, that whole Carl Everett freaking base hit after that no-hitter. I mean, he had so many moments. He should have won the Cy Young in 01, but people didn't understand anything yet. I mean, like there were so many moments with Mike Mussina where he deserved better than he got, but he made the Hall of Fame, so I can put those axes down now.
All right, so before either of you beat me to it, I need to pick the year 2012. And I am picking a game in which Raul Ibanez hit a huge home run, but I'm not picking the game you're thinking of.
Okay. Got to be cool. Got to be different.
Take yourself back in time to September 22nd, 2012.
Yeah.
Whipple knows where this is going.
I actually don't know if I remember.
The Yankees are playing the Oakland Athletics, and they're deep into an extra innings affair. In the top of the 13th, it's a 5-5 game, and Freddie Garcia allows back-to-back home runs to Johnny Gomes and Yoenis Cespedes. The Cespedes ball is one of the farthest balls I've ever seen hit at Yankee Stadium. Yankees bring in Justin Thomas, not the golfer, who then gives up a home run to then future Yankee Chris Carter, and suddenly it's 9-5. The Yankees rally to tie the game in the 13th, thanks to a game-tying home run. In the bottom of the 13th, thanks to a game-tying home run from Raul Ibanez. It's 9-9. Corey Wade ultimately gets himself the win by pitching a 1-2-3 14th. And then Tyson Ross comes out to pitch the 14th inning for Oakland. Eric Chavez singles, and Whipple, who pinch runs for Eric Chavez?
That's the Melky Mesa Wesa.
That would be Melky Mesa, who is bunted to second by Derek Jeter. They then intentionally walk Ichiro. A-Rod comes up, singles to center field. Melky Mesa, the pinch runner from second base, is obviously going to score. The Yankees are going to win this back and forth marathon of a game. But he misses third base and doesn't score, stops halfway down the third base line, runs back to the bag. Ultimately, the Yankees win on an Eduardo Nunez ground ball 2 batters later. But Melky Mesa missing third base at the end of this insane game has stuck with me for over a decade. And I love the whole Melky Mesa lore. And if either of you had picked 2012 before I could get to this game, I would have been really angry.
It's so good.
So we gave up one of the elite like playoff moments in recent Yankees baseball for Melky Mesa.
I support it.
This missed bag, huh?
The Raul Ibanez heat check as a whole maybe compares, but like
I'm kidding.
Raul Ibanez's heat check is legendary, but doesn't compare truly to.
There are some moments coming up that I could go with that are even more obscure and stupid than that. So don't worry.
Whipple, you have 2 picks left. How will you use your 4th pick?
So I think I got to go 2009. I mean, we haven't touched it so far. Yeah. And I'm just going to say I'm really torn between 3 different games, but we've talked about Luis Castillo's drop pop-up in a draft before. And I'd rather focus on the game that has some sort of thing that makes me laugh. So I'm not going to focus on game 2 of the ALDS. I'm going game 6, 2009, partly because the Yankees won the World Series at home. That's pretty awesome. But I really want to focus on the end of the career of Pedro Martinez and the complete dismantling that occurred by Hideki Matsui. And just having Pedro Martinez somehow have this dead cat bounce with the Phillies and then come lose 2 starts at Yankee Stadium, get absolutely dismantled, have the Who's Your Daddy chants brought back. Hideki Matsui just putting up one of the greatest performances we've ever seen. But like off of Pedro Martinez, I mean, it just was so out of place. It was like Cliff Lee and Cole Hamels and then their other starters, Pedro Martinez. I thought it was so fitting and like a way to exercise some of the demons from previous years and having that World Series celebration, at Yankee Stadium and everything was awesome. But I'm always going to remember, like, my dad used to get the New York Post covers or New York Post mailed to him. And on the cover the next day was Pedro Martinez's head photoshopped over a baby's, like, in a diaper's body. And that got posted up, like, right by my TV for as long as we lived in Avon until, like, 2022. And, there's just something to be said for completely, just getting the best of your enemies. I feel like that symbolizes that getting the best of your enemy. So that's my 2009 moment.
It's a great example of it's not enough that I should succeed, others should fail.
Right. If they'd won the World Series, great. But to do it like that, I mean, that was so awesome.
Whenever I go back and watch highlights from that game or any other game Pedro pitched, it's always striking to me that, like, why were they even relying on Pedro at this point? I mean, it had to have been entirely his, like, name value, right? Or just his grit. Because he was barely hitting like 88 miles an hour. And I know it's 09, so velocity levels are different. But even for that era, he was not throwing hard. He wasn't even pitching, like, results-wise that well. It's so strange that they leaned on him as much as they did.
He hadn't been good in years.
No, it had been a while. And it's not like his stuff was suggesting that he should be anywhere better than he was. I don't really get it in retrospect.
People just tried stuff back then. Like, remember the Red Sox signing Smoltz and then, like, they had to basically he had to be torn out of their hands after giving up like 10 runs.
Yeah.
In Yankee Stadium. I mean,
I think there was reason to believe Smoltz would still be good at that point, though, because I think he had been good like the last time. Anyway, it's a whole can of worms.
I like how bitter he still is about that. Anyway,
Smoltz,
yeah.
Well, anything to make Smoltz bitter. That's
exactly.
News. Yeah,
that's right.
The Giants signed like 43-year-old Randy Johnson just for the name value.
That's true.
Yeah.
I kind of miss those days though. Like you just kind of tried stuff sometimes.
I don't.
I'd rather have conviction that the things that I'm doing are going to work.
No, I'll take that back. I like other teams trying stupid stuff.
Yeah. That's
good.
for sure.
Yeah.
Steve, your pick.
Well, I had a different idea, but I'm now worried because 09 is one of the prime A-Rod highlight years, and if we're not going to go that season, I could go. You know what? We're going to go 2013 for an A-Rod year because this is a fun one.
Oh, I had a good one from this. You might have picked the same thing.
Is it an A-Rod moment being hit by a pitch from Ryan Dempster?
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah, I love this moment. It's still replayed
really
all the
good.
time. But this was at the height of everybody hating A-Rod for steroid scandals. And people were kind of beating him or throwing close in all the time. And then Ryan Dempster, they were in Fenway, right? Yeah, Ryan Dempster beans the hell out of him to cheers around the crowd. Then his next time up, he hits a nuke to center field, and he celebrates it way harder than he usually did. And that's just one of my favorite. I mean, it's not even. I love A-Rod in a way. It's not like I'm on his side about a lot of the steroid stuff or anything, but just watching the drama of that moment and just him being such a villain, maybe no bigger villain ever in one stadium than he was in Fenway that day, and hitting a nuke off of Ryan Dempster it's a good watch. Still a great highlight.
It's just so funny that Ryan Dempster was like, oh, watch me. I'm going to take justice into my own hands. I'll show this guy. And A-Rod was like, that's cute.
Yeah. He barely, because then he didn't play in 2014, right? So he only played a tiny bit in 2013. Yep. And then he was suspended all of 2014. Oh, A-Rod. But he got his moment.
He sure did. Oh, gosh. Where do I want to go? So a lot of what I have left is like really niche stuff or things that
It's niche.
Yeah, niche stuff. I was also reading words, which didn't help. Or stuff that I attended personally. And I'm trying to think of which direction I should go. You guys took some years that I felt like I had some good moments. Oh gosh, this is tough. Let me go with 2004. And you guys probably think, oh, he's going to pick a Brad Halsey moment. Wrong. Late in 2004, in September, the Yankees were getting absolutely destroyed by the Boston Red Sox in a game that they would go on to lose 11-4 at Fenway Park. Now, why would I pick a game that the Yankees went on to lose 11-4 at Fenway Park? Great question, Will. The answer is because Andy Phillips hit a home run in his first career at bat in that game. And we all love Andy Phillips. I think he's probably one of the better remembered guys on the Yankees Files podcast. But what was special about this home run? What was special about this home run is it cleared the Green Monster by a lot. But it bounced off someone or something in like the second or third row of the monster seats and back into the field of play. And Andy Phillips saw it bounce back into the field of play, assumed it hadn't cleared the seats, and stopped on second base. And 21 years later, I have a lasting memory of Andy Phillips hitting his first career home run and then not realizing it was a home run. And I just found it terrific.
I love it.
I don't remember that. I can't remember that one.
That's weird.
That's weird.
You're the weird one.
That's weird.
No, you have the problem.
That was so deadpan. That was so good. That's really weird. It's weird. You wouldn't remember that.
Yeah, I don't know why. Why you don't have like
of my childhood.
Yeah. No, it's actually you're definitely the weird one for not remembering this random event of a blowout loss. There were some awesome names that got into that game. I think I was looking at the pitching, like the pitching summary from that game earlier, and I think it was, oh, here, I'll pull it back up. Yeah, this is phenomenal. Kevin Brown started the game. He was relieved by Esteban Loaiza, Steve Carsey, Brad Halsey, and CJ Nitkowski. Just insane.
Nice.
Insane.
Steve
Anyway,
Carsey.
Steve
So
Carsey.
it was a Brad
Love
Halsey
me some
moment.
Steve Carsey.
It was kind of a Brad Halsey moment. You know what? You're right.
Halsey adjacent. Yeah.
I couldn't stay away from him. He knows that. Rest in peace, King.
Jesus.
Whipple.
Were we in like English class and Dr. Fuller's class when we found that out that he died?
Let me see what year it was. I thought we were in high school.
I don't think I realized he had died until not that long ago.
He died our senior year of high school.
Oh,
we might have been in
we were
Mr. Curtis's class.
Yeah,
that
feel
feels
like
right to me.
Yo, do you know Brad Halsey just died? No way.
Crazy. Oh my god.
That was the scope of our interactions in high school usually.
Yeah, it was just,
Anyway.
hey, do you know this bit player just died or is coming back?
How
Not
many have
from
we
the
done
dead,
now?
to
We've all
baseball.
done 4 now?
We're through 4 rounds.
Okay.
So
we do
Whipple,
at
this
the
is your
end?
last pick. We'll
might have
go
to
through
burn
some
off
honorable
the-
mentions.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
I'm gonna
But
end.
this is your last pick.
I'm gonna end with a moment that I feel like has shaped a lot of the last 4 years, and just like Yankees Files, all about Aaron Judge. I'm gonna go 2022 Judge's 62nd home run, because I think over these 4 years, although it's been very nice being really right about Garrett Cole a lot of the time, and I take a lot of pleasure in that. And maybe I should have done me tweeting a bunch when Garrett Cole won the Cy Young in 2023, but I don't want to make this about me. I think Aaron Judge's meteoric rise from like very good top 5 MVP finalist to like unquestioned best player in baseball and probably of this era, definitely of this era, is just incredible thing to watch. The 62 home run chase, I think just, 2022 being probably the most, I'd say one of the most, I guess 2024. For me, I found 2022 was start to finish an extremely entertaining year to cover. And tracking Judge's home run chase, talking about the historical perspective, just like watching, how he stacked up to Maris as we went through the year, and then just seeing him single-handedly carry the Yankees to that AL East title. And just the air of inevitability. I mean, there was a moment where he just stopped hitting home runs, but I think you always knew he was going to do it. And those, final few were just so magical. And 62 was, maybe it wasn't at Yankee Stadium, maybe it was just in the first inning, second game of a doubleheader, but like, I'm just never going to forget that moment, and looking back at what a year he had and what that meant to our podcast, to Yankees fans, to, people as old as your grandparents, and like just seeing that like generational divide be connected, for a guy who deserves every minute, every second of the praise. It was just so cool. And we probably are never going to see something like that again. But to like be able to have our conversations about it documented week by week. I mean, now that I'm like stepping away, I feel like I probably will go back and listen, because I just want to remember what that was like to watch Aaron Judge do Aaron Judge things. And I know he's still doing it, but there was something about 62 that was a little bit different.
I think that's true.
Oh yeah. I still remember exactly where I was when I was actually working at the brewery when it happened. And everybody was like watching me watch the game, because like nobody else cared. Yeah. They just knew that I cared a lot. And it happened that I like dropped to my knees because we were getting nervous.
Yeah.
We didn't know if it would happen. I mean, it really did get kind of down to the wire after it seemed like it was, certainly going to happen. I got pretty nervous that it wouldn't. So
late that year, I got so obsessive about making sure that I saw it in real time that I would be watching games. Once he got to 59, I would be watching games, and I would have like it on the MLB app on TV. But then if I felt like the TV was slow, I'd also have it on my computer. But then if I didn't know if something was going to be faster than my computer, I'd also have it on my phone. So my wife started just making fun of me because I would have like 4 different feeds of the game up just to see which one was fastest. So I can definitely relate to the crippling nerves of that situation.
Oh, yeah.
Steve, your final pick.
I'm torn here because I can go semi-obscure or super random and obscure, and I don't know.
I think the Yankees Files spirit would be to go super random and obscure.
All right. So, I mean, it's not obscure in that the name of the player involved is a pretty big name, but the event is probably remembered by very few. And this would be in 2010 one big Puma, Lance Berkman, hit his lone home run as a New York Yankee. I loved Lance Berkman. I was so excited when they got him. I loved him. And he went on for so long. Well, actually not playing that badly. He was getting on base a ton, but he did not hit any home runs throughout his first, I don't remember how many games it was, but people were asking him about it, and he kept, kind of dodging the question. That he finally hit one home run as a Yankee. And I remember his interview afterwards. He said, I had to put one in that column at some point. And that was, I don't know why I remember him saying that.
Was that the playoff home run, or was that
no? I guess maybe did he hit one in the playoffs? I honestly
he did. I do remember that. It was
okay. I actually don't remember that now. I just remember him hitting that one in the regular season.
Yeah,
but yeah, I don't know. His first one as a Yankee, his only regular season home run as a Yankee. That's my obscure Lance Berkman moment.
That's a very good one. All right.
We didn't take 2010, right? That was open, right?
2020, 2010 was open.
Gotcha.
Yes, game 2 off of Carl Pavano in 2010.
Jeez, you'd think I would remember that. I don't. Wow.
Shout out Southington, Connecticut's Carl Pavano. I will wrap things up with Whipple. Do you remember who won the 2022 American League Cy Young Award?
It was Robbie Ray. Or no, that's 2021.
That's 2021.
Wait, who's
2022? Why am I blanking?
Wait, I'm blanking too.
I don't remember.
It was not his first Cy Young. He was old.
Oh, it was Verlander.
Yeah.
Oh God, that's right. That's like depressing almost. But yeah.
So in 2023, the Yankees were good? No. They were bad. But they played well against the Astros. And one guy who played well against the Astros for the 2023 Yankees was, of course, Jake Bauers. And I just want to shout out when Jake Bauers took Justin Verlander like 490,000 feet to right field at Yankee Stadium, because Jake Bauers hitting a tank of a home run off the reigning Cy Young winner, who was, of course, pitching for the Astros, was just a hilarious, great moment in a season that had precious few such things. And I couldn't go through this entire draft without shouting out Jake Bauers. So Jake Bauers taking Verlander deep is the final pick in this draft appropriately.
That's very fitting for you.
Yeah.
So that's it would have been sad if he didn't make it on here somehow. Did you get Gary? You did get.
Yeah,
Gary
I got Gary with
the
my
bounce
first
back
pick.
throw. Yeah, okay.
I
hadn't
had
taken anything from 2016 though, man. You didn't take any of the just Gary sanity.
Was there like one moment in 2016? I feel like it was the accumulation.
It would have been the entire
it wasn't.
run.
There was no highlight. Yeah.
Should we shout out some honorable mentions? Some things you either didn't get to pick or didn't make it?
I had some 07 things I wanted. I either was going to go something with Jabba Chamberlain, or more specifically was going to go the not really that close, but almost sort of no-hitter for Phil Hughes when he left the game in the 7th inning against Texas.
That's good one.
It's still stuck in my head. Even though I know it's not logical, in my head, if he doesn't get hurt there, Phil Hughes is like one of the best pitchers in baseball for the rest of his career. And I know it's not true. But at the time,
doesn't he have the single season strikeout to walk rate? Yeah.
Somehow.
With the Twins in, I forget what year, 2014?
Something like that.
Yeah, I forget which year. But yeah, that's really his only truly like good full season. He had some other okay seasons, but I still every now and then I would go back and look at like his minor league stats. He was just dominating down there. I mean, he was so good. And that game felt like just the culmination of everything. Like, we have Phil Hughes, he's going to be an ace. And then he left and he came back and he was never really that good again. Not as a starter anyway.
He was an all-star.
That's true.
He was 20. Yeah. What year was that? Was that 2011 that he?
2010.
2010. Yeah. Yeah.
2010 he was good.
He started off the year really good. Then he was not good.
Yeah.
I saw him pitch. I must have seen him pitch like 5 or 6 times. Like, every time I went in that stretch, like, he was pitching for some reason. So
really?
The Phil Hughes,
who did you have
Moore,
that with recently?
had Cole.
Yeah, I guess it was. I had it with who did I have it with? Sorry.
Last year was very even though. I don't think I had it with anyone.
Oh, I had it with Clark Schmidt.
You did. You did have it.
Anyway, some honorable mentions for me. In the vein of Jake Bauers going yard off Verlander, I have Oswaldo Cabrera going yard off Corbin Burns last year because I was at that game. I had the Rougned Odor timeout home run. I had attending a game where I saw Joey Gallo hit a home run, which I actually did in consecutive years, which probably not many Yankees fans can say. A home run for the Yankees, that is. I had Gary beating Giancarlo Stanton in the home run derby. I had AJ Burnett saving the season in ALDS Game 4 in 2011. I had Ibar and Figgins letting the ball drop in between them in the ALCS in 2009 because that wasn't luck. That was the skill and grit of the 2009 Yankees made the Angels do that.
We did this last week. We're good. We can move on.
Yeah. Let's see. I had Zealous Wheeler going yard off Phil Hughes in his first career game. Wilson Betemit starting 4 games at shortstop. And sentimental pick, shout out to the first Yankee game my wife and I ever went to. Carlos Beltran threw out. That's Gregor Blanco, right? Who was playing for the Giants at that time. It's not Andres Blanco. At home plate on a would-be sac fly, and Masahiro Tanaka outdueled Madison Bumgarner. So those are some honorable mentions from me. Whipple, anything from you?
I mean, the DJ home run is still, that's like the greatest one I would have picked.
Yeah.
Such a shame. Like, what? I still remember that feeling. Just absolute heartbreak.
Yeah. I was in a pizza slice shop on Mulberry Street in Little Italy after going to a housewarming party, and DJ hits the home run, and I'm like, holy cow, this is amazing. And we're sitting there eating our pizza, and Altuve comes up, and I'm like, the season's over. And it's the most pessimistic I've ever been going into an at-bat, I think, and I was very sad to be proven right.
I was in a bar in Boston, and people bought me drinks. That's how
nice of them.
It was nice of them, but, you Red Sox fans feeling bad for you is kind of rough.
Yeah.
I don't have any good memories from that moment. I mean, really, because it was so short-lived. The good memories, and even then, we were down 3-2, right? So we would still have had to win that game and then win a whole nother game. So
I didn't even see Altuve's home run because I was still celebrating DJ's home run. I remember.
Oh no, I saw it.
Somebody pointed to tap my shoulder and was like, "You gotta look." Like I was pretty drunk, to be fair, but like that's how quick it was. I'm still brutal. Celebrating. Let's see some other things. I think from this past year, obviously the Soto home run, but the Judge Stanton Soto back, like underrated, sick moment. I'm glad we got to see that once. 2023, I think the Dodgers catch for Judge, and then his home run off Bautista as like probably the coolest moment I've seen live. 2022, like all the walk-offs were pretty cool, especially the Astros ones. The one I want to shout out in 21 was the triple plays, the A's one specifically. That like was such a crazy sequence of events, having all those triple plays, but like that A's one. Still, like I remember, like I think I texted like, we got to record right now. This is fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Other than that, some older ones. 2010, A-Rod, Marcus Timms not back to back, but like I think it was like 2 batters apart, game tying home run, walk off home run off Papelbon. Man, that was so cool. I remember listening to that on the radio because I was forced to go to bed.
That's funny.
And yeah, that was off of a Papelbon. Great game. So many things from 2009. Obviously, Raul in 2012. I think Mariano and Jeter's final games are pretty cool.
Yeah. There's like 3 or 4 different Stanton home runs we could reference here. Sure. I don't think got talked at all.
A bunch of them from 2021.
The 21 Grand Slam against the Red Sox.
Oh yeah.
Darwin's and Hernandez. That's still one of my favorites.
Shout out my dog, Darwin's and Hernandez.
Then the Grand Slam. Walk-off Grand Slam, right, against the Pirates? Where Judge hit whatever, 60,
That was
the final day of 2021, like regular season.
Oh, sure, fun. The Gio catch, the Judge walk-off.
Yeah, like ended terribly, but that was a fun sequence of events. And like down the stretch in 2012, I think had some great events
for sure. Like the Melky Mesa game. I agree.
That's the first thing that came to my mind.
As it should be.
The Melky Mesa. Missed back.
I was at the game afterwards. I remember that.
Oh yeah! Wow.
I went to the next game. But the only time I've ever sat in a suite, I sat in Keon Rosito's father's Bank of America suite.
How about
watched AJ Burnett get pounded by the A's.
I wanted to get Sean Chacon referenced in 2005, but he didn't have one specific moment, so I didn't. Yeah. But he did throw 16 shutout innings straight that year. I wanted to get Ryan Weber talk in 2023 because I
Oh,
don't think
yeah.
we did much in 2023.
Web dog, baby.
He threw 12 innings of 2-run ball. I thought like, hey, that would be fun. 2020 we didn't get really that much of a shout out. And I don't know. There are some individual moments. I just when I think of 2020 Yankees, I think Luke Voit and his foot. And there's probably some foot stuff moments. I couldn't think of one specifically, honestly, but
I had Clint hitting like a 900-foot home run off Blake Snell in the ALDS.
I miss Clint.
Me too. Yeah. Clint Frazier, come on the podcast.
He should.
You should. You can tell your story. We hate Randy Miller.
I was going to say we hate Randy Miller. Yeah. We'll all get shirts that say, fuck Randy Miller.
Exactly.
Oh, shoot. Sorry.
No, it's fine. It's fine. Actually, apropos of that, you have. I was able to interview one of my favorite baseball content creators the other day. That is And That's Baseball on YouTube, at And That's BB on Twitter. And before we get into the ultimate farewell to Whipple, I want to throw it to that interview. We had a great time. Go check out his content if you haven't. I'm sure very many of you have. He also has a new video out as of this afternoon, Wednesday afternoon, recapping what happened to the top 50 prospects from 10 years ago. So
I actually watched most of it.
I did as well. It's really good. Yeah. Go check that out. And we'll be back after that interview. And we are back, joined by Jacob, the creator, also known to the internet as And That's Baseball, at And That's BB on Twitter, And That's Baseball on YouTube. Jacob makes some of my favorite baseball content on the internet. If you're following us, I'm sure you've seen some of the stuff that he's made, and we're going to get into some of my favorites. I'm very excited for this Joey Gallo video that looks like it's going to be dropping this week. So I'm sure we'll talk about that. But Jacob, it's so great to have you on the podcast. Please introduce yourself. What should our followers, if on the off chance any of them don't know you, what should they know about you?
Well, I appreciate you for having me on, Will.
Absolutely.
I've been an avid follower of the Yankees Files Twitter account. I'm not going to lie to you. I don't follow the podcast all that arduously because I honestly, when I work all day doing baseball stuff, I really don't consume any baseball content besides like a handful of YouTubers now. It's like I'm on Twitter all day when I'm working. Like it's so much baseball all the time. So then when I get off, I'm like, all right, I'm playing Red Dead Redemption. I'm not going to listen to another baseball podcast. But that's not to say that you don't do good stuff, because I know you guys know ball here. But yeah, I I have a YouTube channel where I do like video essay type content. I've been doing that for, it's about to be the 4th year I've been doing it. Wow. I'm getting old. But I try to make like more long form evergreen type stuff, so you can go back and watch it anytime. I try to keep the quality high. More quality over quantity, although my next upcoming video this week is over 55 minutes long, which is the longest by far that I've ever made. But yeah, that's about it about me. Like I'm a Yankees fan, obviously. That's why if you follow me on Twitter, all I talk about is the Yankees, and then occasionally the Giants and the Nets, who disappoint me. So it's a lot more fun to talk about the Yankees.
Well, Jacob, it's great to have you here, and I think evergreen is the exact way to describe your content. I mean, you have the home run records video, you have the Linsanity runs video, you have the video in which you take a position on the problem with baseball's playoffs, which I think I would certainly agree with.
I got a lot of heat for that one. The Twins fans were not happy with me.
Yeah, so let's talk about that video, and let's talk about the 5th inning of Game 5 of the World Series video, because
the video I've gotten the second most heat about.
Yeah, so I mean, let's talk about, I think those are 2 really good examples of your approach to baseball analysis and how you think about the game. And in one of your videos, or in many of your videos, you describe yourself as, taking a data-driven approach, and that kind of being the basis for how you view and think about these things. Maybe you can tell us a little more through the lens of one or both of those videos about kind of how you approach and think about the game, because we tend to agree a lot on Al Gore's internet, and I think there's a fundamental agreement there too.
Yeah, so I think a lot of it kind of starts off. Obviously, I've been a baseball fan my whole life, probably like everyone who's watching and like you. So when I'm a kid, I obviously like watching the games. I watched every single game. Then I ended up playing baseball all throughout high school. And then once I stopped playing, it was like, all right, where to now? I didn't really know what I was going to go to school for. I ended up doing sports admin. So I was like, all right, what do I want to do for work? And since I like the sport so much, I'm like, all right, maybe I should get into analysis.
Mm-hmm.
And I was home from school during COVID, so I decided to start the channel. And I think I've developed pretty well in terms of trying to remove I'm still a huge fan of the Yankees, but I try to remove myself emotionally when I try to do analysis as best as I can. I don't want to be too reactionary with my takes. That was put to the test in 2023, I'd say, more than any other year. But I feel like after that year, that was definitely a big year for me to take a step back and say, all right, I have to like relax a little bit and actually think about how stuff happens in this sport, right?
Sure.
So 2023 happens. That's like a disaster year. Everything goes wrong. We win 80 games still, or whatever, 81 games, 82 games. And that's worst case scenario. We're still above 500. This is what, like probably a 5th or 10th percentile outcome for that season. That's the way I look at it now.
Yeah.
It's like this, you can't be mad at the front office or the team when shit goes wrong.
Yeah.
And then like that's the main thing the main way I look at like roster construction and moves that are made. I try to look at it, how do I grade it when it happens, and then not clouded with the bias of what happened after. So like for like the Joey Gallo trade to the Yankees, it's like I love that move. I thought he fit us perfectly, and then after the fact it didn't work out. It's not going to be nice going, Cashman. That's not how you look at it. You have to look at it through the lens of what happened at the time. So going to those 2 videos that you talked about, a lot of it has to do with what I think, especially the playoff video I made. So the league's going to expand probably soon, as soon as they figure out the Oakland or the A's and the Rays stadium situations. They're probably going to expand to 32, maybe 34 teams. And when that happens, they're going to have to realign the divisions in some way. And my main argument in that video was, I think we should have 2 big divisions in each league rather than 4 small divisions in each league. Like I'd rather have it be like the NBA, closer to the NBA than the NFL. And my main reason for that is I think if there's smaller divisions, that gives a lot of opportunity for very strange years to happen, where teams with barely above 500 records end up with division winners. Then there's going to be years where a 4-team division has 3 or 4 teams that are 90+ game winners. So to speak to how I think about the game, I definitely think about it in terms of how the sport works, right? Like it's a high variance sport. Stuff's going to be weird. It's not like football. The best team doesn't win all the time. So I definitely try to breathe and not react too aggressively when stuff happens. And that's the same way for when the World Series happened this year. Like there's too many takes I was seeing that was, oh, the Yankees didn't belong in the World Series. It's like, what do you mean the Yankees didn't belong in the World Series? They won the pennant. That's belongs in the World Series, if you ask me.
Yeah.
So this team wins the most games in the AL, and then wins the AL, and then loses 3 close games, then wins a game, then has the worst game ever in Game 5. Like that doesn't say if we lost by 10 each game, it'd be different. But like you lose 3 close games, and then it's already pretty much over by that point. Like that doesn't. I don't know. I wasn't thinking to myself, wow, the team wasn't assembled well enough to win. That's not the way I saw it.
Yeah. And I think, you're one of the connectors between those 2 videos to me is the story of the 2006 Cardinals. They go 83-78 with a +19 run differential, and they win the World Series. They lost like 4 or 5 games in the entire postseason. Because they won their division and that's all they had to do. I don't think they would have made it as a wild card team. So they had to win their division, and, they got into the playoffs and weird stuff happens. 'Cause to your point, variance, the best team doesn't win all the time. And the way I've always described it is the playoffs are asking a different question than the regular season. They're not set up to identify the best team, and they don't pretend to. And I think to your point about getting heat about those videos, it does bother people when you point out that, the regular season does a better job of identifying who the best teams are than the postseason does. Maybe we can zoom in a little bit on the 5th inning video, which people should absolutely go to your channel and watch. But you kind of clapped back against some of the negativity and irrationality that a lot of Yankees fans brought to their analysis of why this went wrong. And I think one common complaint that you and I both saw that we've reacted against in different ways was the idea that playing for Aaron Boone makes players not care about playing baseball well. I'd love if you could just kind of give us the short version of the argument that you put forth in that video. I think it was particularly about the Cole Rizzo not covering first play. But it really resonated with me.
Well, I guess to sum it up, shit happens in this game. Like, shit just happens. Aaron Judge drops a pop-up. That's not because he didn't take enough reps. He just dropped a pop-up. Like, Anthony Volpe making a weird angle throw from shortstop, which he barely makes. It's not like you don't go out there and practice that all day. It's not like, I don't know. This is a guy who, Anthony Volpe's a Gold Glove shortstop. You can't get on Aaron Boone for not drilling him enough to make that play. Yeah. And then the Garrett Cole thing. It's like, this guy's a fucking, what, 15-year, he's almost a 15-year vet at this point. Cover first base. And Anthony Rizzo, I will say, I don't think Anthony Rizzo should have been playing in the playoffs at all, if it was up to me, but
fair.
That's a different story. If you want to talk about actual roster issues, Rizzo and Verdugo were the two issues I had with the team. I don't think those guys, they're not signed right now. We're like in spring training and these guys aren't signed and they were playing World Series baseball. That's the one thing.
Starting games in the World Series.
Exactly. So it's like, if you want to criticize the team for that, then that's one thing. But then you have a whole other conversation. Is that because a certain captain on the team is friends with these guys that they're keeping their lineup spots? Who knows? But
gosh, I hope not.
Well, I mean, that's what people are saying. That's why LeMahieu's still on the team, but he's bouncing back this year. Everyone's saying DJ's looking good, best shape of his life. But
spring training's an interesting time.
No, but the go back to 5th inning thing, it's like these guys aren't the whole Boone makes them lazy thing. These guys are playing to make millions of dollars. Like our defense performed as it should have based on the guys we had. We brought in Juan Soto to play the outfield. We moved Judge to center. We knew that was going to be detrimental for the defense. We took the risk, understanding that our offense was going to be good. And this offseason, we did the opposite. We moved Judge back into right. We brought in Bellinger, who should be at least like around average in center field. The defense is going to be a lot better, and we know that our offense isn't going to be as good. We're taking that trade-off knowingly. The front office knows what they're doing. You don't know more than them sitting at home on Twitter.
Sometimes we might know more than them. They shouldn't have traded for Alex Verdugo.
Well, again, I think that's a El Capitan special.
Yeah,
I don't know how much they could have done there.
I'm half joking.
If it was up to me, it would have been Jesus Sanchez, though.
Oh, I know you're a big Jesus Sanchez fan.
I've been banging that drum for years.
It is the thing about Jesus Sanchez to me is that he'll hit like 14 home runs a year and somehow every single one goes 900 feet. And I feel like I'm seeing a highlight of him going yard like every day. And then you look up his stats and it's like, he's kind of done nothing.
Well,
someone could absolutely unlock him, right?
Yeah, I mean, I look at him as very similar to Jazz before the trade. As you get this guy in the Yankees lab, just get him pulling as many fly balls as possible, and this guy's going to hit 35, 40 homers. Obviously, you don't know if that's going to work out. You don't know. Each player's different than each other. Jazz came over, and his pull fly ball rate fucking skyrocketed. You can't expect that from everyone, but just the raw power that Sanchez has, and he's pretty athletic too. Like, I like that combination as a raw player, and I think going from Miami, who's probably has less than half the funding of development that we do to the Bronx. Like I'd assume he'd probably get better with us, if anything. So I would love that move. If that's like my pipe dream of like guys we can fix. hopefully. But
Oh, see, for
yeah.
me, that's Javier Baez, even though there's no reason to think that we can fix him. I just would have a lot of fun if Javier Baez was on the Yankees and good.
Oh my god, the Red Sox Twitter aura loss posts would be incredible.
That's a very good point.
So wow, look at this aura before from the video from
Oh.
2019 of him doing a tag. And then be like, look at him now. He's ugly in pinstripes.
I mean, I think you could already do that. I think you could already do that. Everything post 2021 for Javi has been pretty
2022,
tough. But second half 2021, Javier Baez.
2022, 2-WAR player. That's a solid season. I had an argument with someone on Twitter recently that said I was trying to say that Baez's contract is worse than Chris Bryant's. No, Chris Bryant has the worst contract in MLB right now. It's not even close. Guy cannot do anything on the ball field anymore, probably because he's injured. But it's sad that it's happened that way. But he's literally a negative value player.
That's actually a very fair point. So one thing we've talked about, kind of your approach to the videos that you make and how that's influenced you as a baseball fan and vice versa, and how you kind of try to bring data-driven objectivism to the stuff that you do. And I think the video about World Series Game 5 was a very good example of that. And another great example of that is the video about relief pitchers. Well, it was partially about Emmanuel Clase, but it rolls into you inventing this stat for relief pitchers and ranking them. Yeah. And it's an awesome video. It's like half an hour long. People should absolutely check it out. It dives into one of the simplest points that you make in that video is that people are analyzing relievers wrong, and that there are a lot of results-based stats that don't track well year over year, and that if you want to find good relievers, you need to be looking at guys who, like, the fundamentals of what they do is good. So, like, you want good stuff. You want high strikeout, low walk, things of that nature. And then ultimately you roll all those stats that you think are informative into this relief pitching composite stat, and you rank 2024 Major League relievers with that stat. And I think at the top are Clase, or Mason Miller and Griffin Jacks, which makes sense. But not even in the top 25. Not even in the top 25, you have Edwin Uceta. And you need to answer for that. What is he doing? He's in like 27th or something.
27th place. This is a volume thing. Hang on. This is a volume adjusted stat. He only threw 40 innings last year. I have the version that has no volume adjustment. I'll pull it up right now. He is.
Yeah. What is he on a rate basis?
I gotta find them. He's actually lower. Never mind. That's because there's a lot of guys like 30 innings that go above him.
Oh, sure. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Like Kyle or Chris Bubich is like second overall without the volume adjustment, and I think he's gonna be really good like, starter this year. But
what are we doing to my guy with a 1.7 FIP?
Hang on. This is another thing I realized when I made this video. There's a ton of good relievers right now. Like, it is unreal, the reliever talent in this league. I like, even going back to I have the list from 2023 as well. I think the 2024 relievers are there's a significant jump year over year. I don't know what happened, but it was a really good season for relievers.
It was, and I think the people should check out that video because you touch on not only Clase, but on the Trevor May stuff about overuse of the Cleveland bullpen and how that affected them in the playoffs. And I want you to take a position on this because I got some criticism on the last episode of this podcast. Steve and I were talking about how we can kind of understand where Hal Steinbrenner and the front office are coming from with, we'd like them to get some better players, hedge against downside risk a little bit more, build better depth, fill the hole at third base, and, make the Yankees an even better team. But we were talking about that relative to the idea that even the best team that makes the playoffs probably only has like a 20 or 25% chance of winning the World Series on the day the playoffs start. Yeah. And it's hard to go out and get guys who meaningfully change that number. Mm-hmm. So I'm interested in your take on, given how you've analyzed the playoffs, given how you've analyzed changes in performance, even from very good players between the regular season and the playoffs, as you think about the Yankees offseason as a Yankees fan, how do you square what I presume is some amount of discontent with the way they've built the roster with just the reality of what the baseball playoffs are? And how would you advise fans maybe to think about that?
Well, first off, I'm going to give my personal opinion on the offseason. It's probably like a B+ offseason. I think it's very good. Like, anytime you lose Juan Soto back, it's tough to replace him. But you got, like, we traded Cody Poteet for Cody Bellinger. That value swing is insane. It's remarkable. And obviously, it's like, it's easy to get on Hal for not wanting to go over the tax. And I do kind of hate to, like, he's right when he says you shouldn't need to spend $300 million to win in this sport. But we just went to the World Series. You just got all these playoff shares. You just made probably extra $50 million just from that October alone. It's a tough sell to fans. If you're a fan and you're frustrated that we lost our number one guy to our city rivals, and then we're inching above the luxury tax and we have DJ LeMahieu platooning at third. I completely understand that frustration. Yeah. But when you take a step back, how many teams did better than us this offseason? Like the Dodgers? Even the Mets. The Mets signed Soto, and their rotation kind of is stinky right now. So
Clay Holmes is like hurtling towards being the Mets number 2 starter, which could work. But
listen, I have a Clay Holmes take. As someone who's watched him a lot, I don't know if the command and the stuff and the volume can all be maximized at once. Mm-hmm. I see him as more of like a 3-4 inning type starter. Yeah. And if I don't know if he's gonna be able to go 5 innings and keep his stuff, but anyway, that's besides the point.
I would tend to agree with that.
We had a pretty good offseason. Like, Goldschmidt was not my top pick for first base. I would have loved Christian Walker, but I understand the rationale. We don't want to give up more draft picks because you can't just give up all your picks in 1 year and all your bonus money. I would have probably preferred Carlos Santana, but I think from the looks of things, he wanted to go back to Cleveland. And what else? Like, I want Ben Rice to get at bats. That'd be nice, but I don't know with the way we're paying Goldie. Who knows? But still, overall, it's like you have a lot of solid players. You have less impact superstars with Soto gone, but you have a lot of solid players on this lineup. And then the defense should be a lot better, and the pitching should be a lot better. So I don't know.
I think there's
a lot of overreactions this year.
Definitely a lot of overreactions, but that's nothing new for Yankees fans. I think the Fried acquisition really kind of makes me feel good about the offseason. And I think what you started with there, with like understanding people's dissatisfaction with Hal not wanting to blow away the luxury tax and go out and be super aggressive, like, yeah, totally agree. But I don't know. It's something about measuring it against the backdrop of just how hard it is to win the World Series, even when you're the best team.
I want to add one more thing to that, actually.
Yeah.
I think it's also another thing that makes it a hard sell. I think the reason that we're seeing so many angry Yankees fans, we're coming off a pennant winning season. You're seeing so many fans discontent. You lose your top guy to the Mets, and then you also see the Dodgers, who just won, go out and they're just ignoring the law of diminishing returns, signing as many people as possible. Their luxury tax hit is like $400 million now. They don't need to be doing this. This to me looks like it's a plan to grow the fan base more than anything. Try to just become the dominant, like, they want to establish themselves as we don't give a fuck, we're the Death Star of this league. And they want to try to bring in a bigger audience to that, to say, oh, the Dodgers are playing, which I understand that. But from a baseball perspective, when you go out and sign, like, I don't know, Tanner Scott or like Trinan
Kirby Yates,
all these relievers are signing for 8-figure deals, and it's like that doesn't really, you don't need that to win, but I think they're just doing it because they can, which makes us look worse. But I don't think it's necessarily like at a certain point. You can't project a team to win 110 games, no matter how many guys they add, because shit's still going to happen during the season. Like I said, it's a high-variance sport. It could happen. They could win 110 games. If any team could, it's them. But odds are they're going to probably win low 100s, and then odds are they won't make the World Series because that's how it works. But if anyone can, it's them. So who knows?
Yeah, it's an interesting point. We discussed a couple podcasts ago just the question of what are the Dodgers doing, because to your point, they've absolutely, like, dollars per WAR doesn't make sense for them. Yes. You don't sign Kirby Yates for 8 figures, as you said, and have it meaningfully affect your World Series odds. That deal is not going to pay off. That's true of the Tanner Scott deal as well, almost certainly. And it does make the Yankees look bad. It makes the Yankees look really bad. But you're also exactly right. We've seen the Dodgers have the most dominant team in baseball and get played off the field in the division series. The 2022 Dodgers were one of 3 teams in the last 30 years to have a run differential of at least plus 300, and they won 1 playoff game. Yeah. And that is the fickleness of baseball. And I think something that I'm trying to impress on our followers and listeners and just Yankees fans writ large, which people don't like to hear, and I'm not saying that I appreciate the Yankees operating this way, I'm saying this is how we need to understand it, is the playoffs are, as I said, not asking the same question that the regular season asks. And as good as your team is, there is nothing you can do to guarantee playoff success. There's not even much you can do to make playoff success meaningfully more likely. We pointed out on the last podcast that even if you have a 60% chance of winning each playoff series you appear in, which nobody has because teams are pretty evenly matched, that's
Except
still only like a 20...
Except the Astros in the division series, and they have a 100%
exactly.
chance of winning the series.
Yeah, we found out they need to be playing in the wild card series. That's how you eliminate them.
Then they have a 0% chance of winning.
Exactly. It's even if you have a 40% chance of winning all 3 series, that's a 21% chance of winning the World Series. So like it's just very hard to affect your odds. And I don't know. I'm finding out as I engage with more like content creators on Yankees Twitter that I am like just super old compared to everyone else. So I don't know if you have conscious memory of the Yankees going out and getting guys like Kevin Brown and Gary Sheffield and a whole host of terrible pitching acquisitions that they got just because George was obsessed with them. But, and maybe you remember 2009. I think there's just, there are more examples of teams going out and getting these massive hauls of players and it not working. And I think some people probably learned the wrong lesson from 2009. And I think what's tough is, would it have been weird? Like, you've probably been pretty plugged into the Yankees since 2017. Would it have been weird for them to win the World Series in any of those years, given the roster they went into the season with? I don't think so. And that's
2017, I'd say, is the only one where it was like, there's expectations weren't really there going into it. But then once you got to like mid-season, you're like, all right, this team's really good. This is possible.
Yeah, they did have some guys arrive, obviously, like Judge, in ways that we didn't necessarily expect. That team, I would actually argue, massively underachieved. They were like 100-win Pythagorean win-loss team.
Yeah, Girardi loved. If you were like a 78-win Pythagorean, Girardi brought him to 86. If you were 100, Girardi brought him to like 96.
Exactly. So this is the question I'll leave off with, because I think this will be really telling of how you think about baseball and why I think we see so many of these things kind of eye to eye, and why a lot of our followers probably really enjoy your content. People have asked me, how would I know if Brian Cashman needed to be fired? Is it enough that they just keep not winning the World Series? And my response has typically been that my expectation for the Yankees front office is for them to put a team on the field every year, or at least to build a team, for opening day every year about which I don't think it would be weird for them to win the World Series. And to the point we just discussed, I think, for the last pretty much decade, they've done that every year. They had some lean years in there when the contracts that won them the World Series in 2009 were aging badly, and that was all built in. Like, we knew it was going to happen. So, and I think this year they've, put out a team that's probably the best in the AL. So I don't think it would be weird for them to win the World Series this year. So until I feel like the front office is actually not putting out a competitive product, and by competitive, I mean it wouldn't be weird for them to win the World Series, I'm going to be generally kind of fine with them. Do you have a test or a rule of thumb or anything like that? How do you think about, well, I would say we should fire Brian Cashman if this?
I don't think I've ever thought about it in that way. Just 'cause I feel like Cashman's been around forever, and he's never gone under 500. So it's like, I don't think we're ever gonna fire him. Realistically, he's gonna be his last day as GM is gonna be the day he no longer wants to be general manager of the Yankees. So I've never even thought of it that way, and I think that's the way that you said it is a pretty good way of thinking about it. Like, if you go into the year and you can tell, like, from the jump that this team isn't gonna compete, then maybe that's a sign that it's a bad year. But even then, that's not necessarily an indictment on the front office as a whole, like the process. That shit just happens sometimes. Like you were saying, guys just age. I think they've done a pretty good job, especially this time. You look back at the player development throughout like the late 2000s, early 2010s, it wasn't good compared to what it is atrocious now. It's gotten so much better, and I feel like people aren't acknowledging how many young, talented players are up on this team right now. Like, we just had a rookie of the year, and then Austin Wells, who was
another
third or fourth in voting. Yeah, like these we have Volpe. Like, we have multiple 3-4 win players that we just developed, and everyone's pointing, oh, the farm system's 25th ranked. Yeah, because all of our guys just graduated and helped us make the World Series. This team. And then we draft like a Ben Hess, and then everyone's like, "Oh, Cashman's drafting a guy with a 6 ERA in college." And it's like, you guys don't get it yet. They know what they're doing. Yeah. There's gonna be a more perpetual talent stream than what we saw in the 2000s and in the early 2010s. And we're gonna, as long as we continue that, even as guys like Judge and Cole, and then eventually Rodon and Fried, even as they age out, even as those contracts get ugly at the end, we're going to bring up guys. We're going to continue to compete. I don't think my outlook in the next like 5-6 years, I don't expect us to go into a year without competing.
Yeah, I agree. And I think you nailed it. One of the biggest credits to the current front office is the way that they overhauled the player development infrastructure from the late 2000s, early 2010s to today. Like, it's night and day for those
Larry Rothschild. So that's all I need to see.
That too. But for those of us who remember like the Mason Williams, Slade Heathcott.
The Slade Heathcott era was special. Oh my God. Remember, he had a walk-off against like the Rays or something, right?
He had it was a big hit. It might have been on the road in Tropicana, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Slade Heathcott. That's a name. Anyway, Jacob, it's been a pleasure having you join the podcast. We'll have to do this again. I can't wait to watch the Joey Gallo video. Please let people know where they can find you, how they can keep up with you, how they can support you, because I'm a huge fan of what you're doing, and I know if anyone that listens to us or follows us hasn't discovered you yet, you're going to gain some fans from this.
Well, come over to my channel. It's called And That's Baseball. You can see right underneath my head here. Just type that into YouTube, and by the time this podcast is out, there's going to be a new video out on my channel, right? It's out to my members right now, but it'll be published by the time this podcast is out. And it's a retrospective look back at the top 50 prospects entering 2015. It's like a series I've been doing for 3 or 4 years now, where I look back at the prospect rankings, MLB Pipeline's prospect rankings. And
Gary Sanchez is in one of those videos.
Yeah, he was in last year's one. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
I don't remember. He's been in them before. I don't know if he re-enters the top 50 in 2016, but I don't think he's not in this one. So
yeah,
Joey Gallo's.
I remember him in the 2014 one.
Joey Gallo's my thumbnail man for this one, because I need to get some negative Yankee fan impressions from that. People mad at him. But yeah, so I just go through and do an analysis. Oh, is this guy a hit, a bust, or somewhere in the middle? And there's a few Hall of Fame guys like at the top of the list. You have like Corey Seager and a couple other shortstops. But yeah, I go through each of them for like a minute, and it's a really long video. But if you're as into this stuff as we are, then if you're listening to this podcast, you'll probably like it. So check out the channel, and that's baseball, and then check out the Twitter at and that's BB, and for my hot takes, and then yeah, that's about it.
All right. Well, Jacob, thanks so much for coming on. To anyone listening who's just discovering him, definitely go check him out, and we'll have to do this again soon. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me.
And we are back. Thank you again to Jacob at And That's Baseball, And That's Baseball on YouTube, at And That's BB on Twitter, for joining us, and great discussion. I hope everyone enjoyed that. I'm sure you did. Whipple, this episode is coming to an end, and so too is your tenure as a full-time co-host of the Yankees Files podcast. I don't spend a lot of time on this podcast being earnest or heartfelt or nice. But I do want to say,
what have I got myself into?
I do want to say, behind Gary Sanchez, you are the person who is most responsible for this endeavor existing. And when I reached out to you in 2021 and said like, hey, I'm doing this, and I didn't really ask you if you wanted to join me, but I was obviously asking you if you wanted to join me. I very much appreciate you picking up on that and all the work that you've put into this in the last few years. I have had such a fun time covering the sport, talking about the Yankees with one of my best friends. And this is in many ways the culmination of like almost 2 decades of us watching and talking about baseball together. So it is a sad day that you are leaving us, but it's nice to know that you won't really be permanently gone. And I want to thank you for just, the time we've been able to spend together doing this over the last 4 years. I very much appreciate it and have had a blast doing it.
Well, you took the words out of my mouth when you texted me 4 years ago. I was like, I know what he's going after, but because it's Will, I need to get the ball rolling. And I remember, in our days of blogging, which was, maybe a little misguided in terms of what we took on, I always was like, I'm only doing this if there's a podcast, because I thought that would be so much fun. And it took probably a few extra months, but we got it going. Those first early episodes are definitely pretty rough. But we really picked the best season to start off on in terms of content being just absolutely wild. And over the next 4 years, I just look forward to this so much as part of a staple of my everyday or every week routine, being able to share it with family and friends and be able to just talk about all the crazy shit we'd talk about regularly, as we've always said, but we didn't really have a spot for it. And now tons of people have heard us, tons of people have seen us online. And like I said before, I think it's a testament to what you've done, what we've been able to do, that someone like Steve is replacing me, just someone who, it's not like we knew him, but he's kind of born of this culture that you and we've created. And I'm just really excited for you guys. This is definitely was not an easy decision to decide to not do this permanently anymore. But I think knowing that Steve is the guy who's coming next, it makes it a lot easier to step away. I've just had a great time. And like I say every year, this is, your brainchild. Like, I wouldn't be able to do this on my own. So I want to thank you for putting in the legwork, for pushing me to buy equipment, even though I was being a pain about it.
You were.
For getting the stream set up, for doing awesome research, for having these great ideas, and just being a great friend. I know our conversations aren't going to stop. Maybe people won't have to be as annoyed by them anymore, but it's just been it's been awesome for 4 great years of Yankees baseball, and I'm excited to see where you guys go. Steve, good luck. No, you're gonna do great. I've said, you're the best person to fill these shoes, and I'm excited to be a great, an avid listener now, and to see where this goes beyond me, and of course to pop in when stuff happens, because I definitely will not be that far away. I look forward to just following you guys from afar. I will be the #1 fan. I can definitely promise that. So expect feedback, expect texts. You don't even know what you've unleashed. You think he's just like not even doing anything. No, I'm gonna start doing stuff. I'm gonna start bugging you guys. But yeah, it's to everyone out there, everyone's listened, everyone's been on the pod. My parents for coming on the pod.
Yep.
Just thank you all so much for being a great community. I think the video that these guys put out last week says a lot. Like, this is the kind of community we want to cultivate. And I think it's the community that best serves this team. And, what that becomes, I'm excited to see. But it definitely is. It's a lot better than a lot of the other stuff out there online. So, I could keep going on, but I'll cut myself off. Just thank you for everything. And I will miss this podcast, definitely. So it's in good hands, but I'll be thinking about the days of yore, remembering some 2021 pods.
Whipple, are you at all concerned that you are Wally Pipp and Steve is Lou Gehrig?
I welcome that. If Steve, if you want,
Wally Pipp was a good player.
People are saying things. I can't help what people are going to say. It's just if they're going to say stuff. That's
when I start tweeting in 3 months, like cryptic things, like a picture of a microphone or something. Just know that I'm out there and I can come back at any moment. I can make calls. So
I hope so. It's a weird experience for me being somebody who listened to this podcast, and so obviously I'm excited to come on and do it now. But I'm also kind of like losing the podcast in a way. Like, I hope we can make it as good as it was with you guys, and maybe even keep growing it. But now I don't get to listen to it. You're gone, so now am I going to listen to myself talk to Will again after having it's interesting.
That's why I don't listen to the podcast. But
if I listen, I'll just critique myself. That's probably what you would do too, right? I imagine that's the experience. Yeah,
pretty much. But it's more fun doing it. You guys are gonna have a blast. I trust Will. I trust you. So I'll step away and like I said, the cryptic coming out of retirement tweets, I'll try to save them for a few months.
That's gonna be so good.
And I will be back in George's box for sure. I'll show up in that door. Once I move to New York, I'm just gonna show up in your doorway. I'm gonna find out what time you guys are recording.
You're standing right there.
The Whipple signal, just posting a picture of Clemens in the
exactly
in the audio booth. Yeah.
But yeah, the Whipple Hive. I'll chat with you guys later offline. We have the special group chat. I'll take it to that.
Yeah. No, that's good.
Members only. Yeah, 3 members.
Well, I think there's only one thing left to cover before we wrap up, and that is a quick fire reaction to the facial hair policy change.
Oh, we didn't. Yeah, we never got to it. Yeah. What do you guys got? I got nothing really for it that's that unique. I've always thought this would be a good idea. Also didn't care enough ever to like make it my thing that I needed them to change it or whatever. I'm surprised they did. I thought it was going to be more of a distraction than not doing it. So I always thought they were just going to avoid it. I don't know if I buy into the conspiracy, but part of me does, that maybe not bringing Juan Soto back, feeling some fan, agitation with how things have gone. They're making some much long awaited fan choices, now allowing beards, changing the song after losses, stuff like that. Could that be a response to not signing? Well, I don't know. I'm really not sure, but it does feel like they're trying to do some fan service, and it's fine with me. Sounds good. I don't think it's going to be a problem at all. I think we'll stop talking about it in like 2 months.
I don't want my dad to keep talking to me about it. So
it'll be old news. It'll be old news.
My dad is like the biggest opponent of this new policy. He's sending me pictures of like Cole with mild facial hair and just being like, So there's gonna be people. I think it's a good lesson that the people you love out there, sometimes they're gonna have takes you don't agree with, but you still gotta love them anyway. And I think we should just all accept we're all gonna have different opinions on this. Just play some baseball. News.
It's gonna be old news so soon. And we're gonna
no one's gonna look like Brandon Marsh or Dallas Keuchel, and I don't know. Also, bad justification. Well, the vice president of the United States has a beard, which is something Hal Steinbrenner said. I don't care what the vice president of the United States looks like. Often the vice president of the United States is like 75 years old. Should the Yankees be employing some guy who's 75 years old? Anyway.
I get his point, I think, right?
No, I understand his point.
Yeah,
but
it's now a totally
poorly
it's
delivered.
So accepted that even the vice president is somebody who would have to ostensibly be the ultimate pillar of professionalism could have a beard, right? Which, it's just funny because of a lot of things. But
I think the Yankees should amend their shooting your friend while you're on a hunting trip policy.
The Cheney policy.
Exactly.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, this has gone off the rails, as is it appropriate to do. Now it is time to rate our confidence in this team. Whipple, your final confidence rating out of 10 in the New York Yankees as a full-time contributor to the Yankees Files podcast.
Now, Whipple, I'll have you know, I did make this more granular my last time
on.
He did. I did break it down to the percent, to like the 10th.
To the 10th. He went to the 10th, which we had previously only done when going by half.
Yeah, no,
I don't know. This is
you don't have to do it. You don't have to do it.
The game's changing
change is
too quickly.
Coming swiftly, Whipple. All right, Lou Gehrig's in here. I'm hitting bombs.
You know what? No, I can go to the 10th. I can go to the 10th. I'm gonna say 9.1.
Okay.
Because I was gonna say 9.
That's actually hilarious.
But I'm gonna go a little bit higher. As a celebration, farewell 0.1%. I think it's a good place to be in at this point. Everything with Stanton's a little concerning, but I like what I'm seeing. I mean, watching the game today, guys are taking good at bats. Knock on wood, like everyone's relatively healthy. Pitching is fine. It's early on. They're positioned well. As good as they could be in it without Soto, I think that's where they are. They're going to need more offense, but everyone will. They're not going to need. They're not going to need more facial hair. Apparently, that's been taken care of. So.
Well, we'll see. Now, it might not be enough. we might need to let them grow it even longer. We don't know yet.
You never know. Steve, your rebuttal?
Well, I can't say anything's changed since the last time I scored this, right? It's funny that you picked 9.1, Whipple. I picked 8.9. I believe Will went 9.0.
Yeah.
You're going 9.1. So it wasn't planned. It feels orchestrated and planned.
Just shows how we all really know a lot about this team and agree.
Maybe I can say the beards bring me up to a 9. I don't know why. That doesn't mean anything, but sure. 8.9. We're gonna stay with it. 8.9.
This is Yankees Files. You gotta say stuff that doesn't mean anything.
Well, I just did. So it's
and I'm gonna stick at 9. Although it's entirely possible that they rally around the loss of Whipple and it really galvanizes them as a team and they go win the Grapefruit League, which is something that Whipple cares about a lot because it happened in 2009.
Look, all I'm saying.
Wait, could we Phil Coulson him from Avengers? Just
there you go.
He always believed in you guys.
There's a
moderately trading cards.
There's a moderately weak correlation between winning the Grapefruit League and having an above average record. It's very, very small.
Is there a correlation at all?
No, I don't know. But I looked at I think I looked at 5 different years one time and that was.
Well, with that, it is time for us to wrap up both this podcast and the Alec Whipple era, as it will hereafter be known. Thank you to And That's Baseball for joining us on this podcast. Thank you to Steve Carsey and Alec Whipple for being my intrepid co-hosts. And people can keep up with everything we do at yankeesfiles.com. I know Steve and I have plans to get some writing up there in the near term. You can keep up with everything we do, of course, on Twitter as well, where we are at Yankees Files. The podcast is available wherever you get your podcasts. We hope that you will rate, review, subscribe, give it a thumbs up, whatever the appropriate rating system on your podcast medium is. You can get the video podcast if you're a Spotify listener. You can, of course, also get the entire video podcast on the Crosstown Sports YouTube channel, youtube.com/@crosstownsports. With that, it is time for us to wrap up. We will be back at a similar time from a similar place sometime in the future to recap everything that's gone on with the Yankees since right now. And until then, let's go Yankees.